from. Testing.
Good evening. This is a meeting of the Zoning Board of the City of Cape May. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice for this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll do the roll call. Mrs. Werner? Mr. Venuto? Mr. Ledwin?
Here.
Mrs. Notch? Ms. Sheehan? Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Mr. Zexer?
Here.
Mr. Yeager?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson? Okay, thank you.
We have three resolutions for this evening. 327-225, Catherine and Robert Barbeau, 106 2nd Avenue, Block 1013, Lot 10. Someone like to make a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ledwin, seconded by Mr. Yeager. Mr. Ledwin?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Abstain.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second resolution, 327-225, number 2, Alan and Sherry Blumenthal, 109 First Avenue, Block 1017, Lots 14C2. Someone make a resolution?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Mr. Yeager motions, Mr. Ledwin seconds. Mr. Ledwin?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Abstain.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Thank you.
The third resolution, 327-205, Tom Harrison, 1000 New York Avenue, Block 1102, Lots 1, 2, 61, and 62. Someone make a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can we have a second, please?
I have to abstain.
We are abstained.
It's up to one of you
That's-
guys.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Yeager motions, Mr. Zexer seconds. Mr. Ledwin,
Abstain.
Mr. Walsh,
Abstain?
Mr. Zexer,
Abstain.
Mr. Yeager.
And on this one, the vote is yes, right?
Or no?
Or is it no?
Is the result,
I-
is
I
the
have to
result the
look at-
result that you voted for?
This is the Harrison HP, they affirmed the zoning.
But
of-
did the vote go the way that you voted?
Yes,
Then you say yes.
yes.
Okay,
And
thank,
it's one of those, it's in the Cox book, but yes, you can actually, one person can pass the
Okay.
resolution. It's a majority of those eligible. to
Yeah,
vote.
because this was a
We,
little.
we're all nodding our heads like we read it in Cox somewhere, it says, it gives that example, and it just happened. I've never seen it happen, but we have a quorum of 4. We only have 1 eligible to vote, and he voted yes, so it passes the resolution. Now we can say we've seen it. There you go.
We need a resolution to approve the minutes from February 27th.
So moved. I'll second.
Mr. Ledwin motions, Mr. Yeager seconds. Mr. Ledwin?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Abstain.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have 3 applications. One's been postponed. Did you announce that? Oh,
Mr.
sorry.
King, would you make an announcement about the Cleve application?
Yes. Okay. All right, there's an application, Jason and Cinda Kluwe, Kliewe, The Empress, 501 Hughes Street, Block 1049, lots 10 and 10.01. Of that application, it was an appeal of HPC determination. That application is adjourned. It will be heard on,
Is that February 20, I'm sorry, April, I think it was the 24th? One moment.
Sounds right.
April 24th, correct. Thank
it'll be
you.
heard on April 24th. Our chairperson and has agreed that Mr. Gillen Schwartz can appear virtually because that is an appeal and he's just going to make legal argument. Normally, we don't allow virtual appearance, but he's the attorney for the city and for the HPC, and he's just making legal argument. And the applicant doesn't want to wait until the month or two till he's available again on that date, so we're going to let him appear virtually, and that will be on the date I just said, at same time, 6 o'clock. I don't know if there was published notice, but what I do know is that there will be no additional notice after this announcement. So if you want to be heard for that application, you need to appear on the date that we just said, which was April,
April 24th, 2025, 6 PM.
okay? All right, thank you.
First application for the evening, William and Emily Young, 122 Decatur, Block 1041, Lot 6.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I'm Andrew Catanese here on behalf of the applicants, William and Emily Young. To my left is Mrs. Young, and with us is our project engineer, John Halbrunner. The Youngs are the owners of property located at 122 Decatur. It's the site of an existing single-family home, and it's located in the RS zoning district. The property just underwent a significant renovation of this contributing structure, and that renovation is in full compliance with the plans and permits that have been issued thus far, but they would like to make 2 additional improvements that are not part of the so far approved plans through the zoning office. First, they'd like to add do a slight expansion of a small landing in the rear right corner of the building, again, to make it slightly larger and to make it a covered landing. And though it will be further from the side yard setback or side yard property line than it is now, thus an improvement in that respect, it still won't comply, so a side yard setback variance is requested for that covered landing in the back right corner. The other improvement is the site itself, which is covered with concrete and stone, and dare I say, is generally unattractive. The proposal is to improve that, to reduce the nonconformity, as well as install some stormwater management systems that Mr. Halbrunner will go over, reducing the impervious coverage, but still not making it compliant. So that's it, just those two variances that we've identified, in addition to some pre-existing nonconformities that will be unchanged. We don't plan any direct testimony from Mrs. Young. I'll turn it over to John to be sworn and qualified and let him do his thing.
Mr. Halbrunner, and I'm also going to swear in our board engineer. Do each of you swear or affirm that to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Halbrunner has been recognized by the board previously as an expert engineer and architect, so I'm sure that, Mr. Chairman, are you accepting him in that?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Halbrunner.
Okay, the property address we're dealing with is 122 Decatur Street, known as Block 1041, Lot 6. It's mid-block between Carpenter's Lane and Beach Drive on the west side of Decatur. It's in the RS Residential Seasonal District zoning district. It's also in the Historic Preservation District. The property size is relatively small, particularly compared to what the zone intends. It's 26 feet and change wide by 114 feet and change deep. And it's just shy of 3,000 square feet, 2,976 square feet. It's developed with a single-family home, 2.5 stories tall, with 3 bedrooms, that was constructed originally circa 1886, roughly 140 years ago. It also is, site's developed with a approximately 8-foot by 8-foot shed in the rear of the property. In terms of zoning bulk conformance, the use is conforming as a single-family home. It satisfies the minimum floor area of 840 square feet. It satisfies the minimum rear yard setback, where 25 feet is required. It has just over that 25.82 feet. And it complies with the maximum building height. Now, unsurprisingly, for a house built 140 years ago, most of the other zoning ordinances are simply not conforming to today's requirements. Namely, the lot size itself, at just shy of 3,000 square feet. The zone has a varying minimum lot area dependent upon the use. For single-family homes, the use in the zone requires 6,250 square feet. So roughly half the size of what the zone would require to be the minimum for a single-family home. The building setback off Decatur Street, where 20 feet would be required, we're at 11.47 feet. The lot width and frontage, where 50 feet would be required for a single-family home, we're at 26.06 feet. And where the side yards would be a minimum 8 feet each. On the north side, we have 0.38 feet to the landing that we're proposing to reconstruct and improve, 1.27 feet to the building, and on the south side, we have 2.76 feet to the building. In terms of lot coverage, the zone for a single-family home would permit a maximum of 45% lot coverage, and its existing conditions, it's 66%. And where a 3-bedroom home, single-family, would require 2 parking spaces, we have 0 parking spaces proposed, or existing, or even proposed for that matter. For context, the surrounding properties are also in the RS zone, and they are residential homes and bed and breakfast inns. As Mr. Catanese described in his opening statement, the proposed improvements we have are very limited. In terms of the exterior alterations to the building, we're going to take this rear entry covered step in the back and simply reconstruct it and enlarge it slightly. And site improvements are going to consist of removing pavers and stones and some concrete walkways, kind of reconfiguring those and replacing them all with brick pavers. In doing so, we're going to be improving some of the drainage conditions, which are right now result in puddling, particularly on the south side between us and adjacent neighbors. Part of our improvements will involve replacement of that sidewalk with new pavers and also stormwater inlets and a recharge system, not because it's required by ordinance, but because we need to try and solve a puddling problem that's been prevalent on this property for some time. So in terms of improvements, that's it. The reconstructed landing covered porch, you may remember I mentioned that the existing landing is 0.38 feet from the property line. We're going to be increasing that slightly, but increasing that to just over 1 foot to match the existing building. So we are making that slightly more conforming than what is there today. The side yard setbacks to the buildings proper, they'll remain unchanged. Obviously, we're not doing anything to the building, so they will remain unchanged. The lot coverage, remembering where 45% is the maximum permitted, 66% exists. With the alterations we're proposing, we're dropping that down to 62%. So while not conforming, we're making it more conforming. There are, the variances that we require are advanced both under the C1 and the C2 criteria. First of all, under the C1, and this is dealing with existing side yard setbacks, we have a 140-year-old building that it simply is situated on a lot in a way that we can't alter, nor can we change the existing non-conforming lot dimensions, lot area and lot depth. It's been there for 140 years. We don't have opportunity to improve those, nor are we increasing or aggravating the degree of nonconformity. So I believe those variances can be granted under the C1 hardship. We simply don't have the ability to make it conforming, and to force conformance would certainly create an undue hardship upon the applicant. The variances that are relating to the things you're altering, the side yard setback and the lot coverage, both of those conditions are advanced under the C2 criteria because we're making both those conditions better. While not conforming, we're improving both. The side yard setback is increased, the lot coverage is decreased. So certainly there is a betterment to the neighborhood and the zone plan by making those more conforming than what the present conditions are. Furthermore, I believe there are multiple purposes of municipal land use law that are advanced by the granting of this requested relief. Namely, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use of development in a manner which promotes the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. We are preserving, in fact, we are restoring a 140-year-old house. We're doing so in a very unimpactful and innocuous way to the neighborhood, and that certainly advances the public health, safety, and morals, general welfare. By slightly increasing the nonconforming side yard setback, we are also providing more adequate light, air, and open space than the present-day conditions. And lastly, we're going to be promoting the conservation of historic sites and districts by the proposed work that we are anticipating. So I believe that adequately addresses the positive criteria. When we go to talk about the negative criteria, one can truly say, what is the negative effect by the grant of this relief? Both of the nonconforming conditions are being improved as a result of this development. So there certainly can be no significant adverse impact to the purpose and intent of the zone plan, and the benefits I described greatly outweigh those detriments. And for those reasons, I believe the requested relief can be granted.
And John, just to make it crystal clear, we're not even proposing any expansion of interior living space here. This is just a little covered deck on the back of the property.
Absolutely. Existing landscaping and existing floor area ratio, existing floor area, all remains unchanged. The things I mentioned earlier. Thank you.
All right. That's our presentation. We're happy to take questions, but we don't want to waste your time on what we think is pretty simple.
Anybody have any questions? Nope. Take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I would like to summarize my December 2nd, 2024 review memorandum for this application. Once again, this is a project located in the RS Residential Seasonal District. You've heard testimony from the applicant indicating what they're proposing to do, which is essentially demolish and reconstruct an existing demolition and reconstruction of an existing 50-square-foot addition and replace the existing landing with a new covered porch. There were some waivers that were requested from items 2, 4, 19, and 33 for completeness items. Based on the nature and scope of this project, I did support all of those and granting of those waivers, and then did recommend deeming this application complete. I agreed with Mr. Halbruner's testimony. This is an existing non-conforming structure on a non-conforming lot. So the lot is undersized. The lot size requirement in that district for single-family dwellings is 6,250 square feet, where 2,976 square feet exists, and the lot width and frontage are sufficiently narrow and do not meet the 50-foot requirements, and that is the existing lot is configured at 26.06 feet. The alteration and new addition has a nonconformity because it's proposed within the 8-foot required side yard setback. They're bettering that situation. However, the setback to those improvements is 1.39 feet where 8 foot is required. Lot coverage is also non-conforming as it exists. The maximum permitted in this district for single-family dwellings is 45%, where 66% is existing, 62% is proposed. In addition to reducing the lot coverage, they're also proposing a stormwater system that mitigates any of the potential overage and potential negative impacts from the existing lot coverage overage. So that's a good positive aspect of this application. And then finally, whenever there's an alteration, the code directs the board to reevaluate the parking standard. In this case, a 3-bedroom dwelling has a requirement based on the residential site improvement standards of 2 parking spaces. There are no existing, there are no proposed. And whenever I do this evaluation, I look to see whether we could fit any on the lot. There is no opportunity to provide parking on that lot. So that's the summary of the variances. My general review comments begin on page 5 of 6. These should be standard conditions of approval. Item number 1 is to provide the first floor elevation on the plan, and they have to comply with section 525-58D. Item number 2 is just, there was no way for us to compute or confirm the floor area ratio calculations, but you've indicated in your testimony there's no additional floor area ratio. So it's I believe it's an existing non-conforming situation, but it's not being worsened or impacted by this development. Item number 3 and 4 deal with the grading and drainage plans. The design is acceptable, and they will ultimately be required to comply with Chapter 525, the minimum stormwater management and grading requirements, both during and after construction. There are, provisions of that apply during construction, so that should be a condition. Item number 5, we evaluated a landscaping plan. There was none provided. We would just like you to verify that there's none going to be impacted by this, by the construction.
We're not eliminating any of the landscaped areas as part of this,
That's
correct?
correct.
So we would just ask that a note be added to the plan just to confirm that. 5 is our standard condition that we evaluate the sidewalk after construction to make sure that it's not damaged during construction, and any damaged sections of sidewalk would have to be replaced to the satisfaction of the board engineer. 7 is the requirement that they have to provide an inspection escrow, and your certificate of occupancy is tied to an acceptable inspection to verify that you're complying with all of the conditions that the board sets. 8 is compliance with the recommendations of the Shade Tree Commission, Fire Department, and Public Works Department. We did receive a Fire Department review recommending approval dated 1/3/25. Public Works recommended approval 1/3/25, and Shade Tree Commission recommended approval January 13th, 2025, and there was no comments associated with that, so there's no issues there. 9, you're required to comply with any and all other state, county, and local approvals. Finally, item number 10, we would need evidence of final HPC approval. 11 is comply with any and all applicable affordable housing requirements before you get your certificate of occupancy. And then finally, should the board grant approval, you're required to submit revised plans to meet the conditions of the board's approval. The requisite number of sets come to me, and I would review those for compliance.
That works. Those are all fine. I think finished floor is a little over 14 feet anyway, but it's a contributing structure, so it's
Okay.
not subject to the 10.5. Whatever it is, it is.
Okay. That's a summary of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Everybody okay? We'll open it to the public now. Anybody within 200 feet would like to speak, please come up to the microphone.
Okay, sir, please state your name and spell it, and then give your address, and I'm going to swear you in first. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please state your name and spell it.
My name is Mark Sucher, S-U-C-H-E-R,
Your address? Your address?
124 Decatur Street. We are literally next door and share a 5-foot wide space between
Thank you.
Anyone else within 200 feet? Anyone beyond 200 feet? We'll close it to the public then.
Okay, the motion that I'd recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you, is a motion to grant variances 1 through 6 on page 3 of the engineer report, with the waivers 2, 4, 19, and 33 on page 2, and conditions 1 through 12 on page 5. That's the motion I recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you. But remember that there's 4 of you, so that the applicant needs 3 yes votes in order to succeed. So, not that that would affect your vote, but I just want you to know that, so you're not surprised by it. And if you're going to vote against this, I would ask that you clearly articulate your reasons, because at present, only reasons in favor of the application and no reasons against the application have been placed in the record, so I would need you to clearly articulate that. Okay? Anybody make that motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Mr. Zexer motions, Mr. Yeager seconds. Mr. Ledwin?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you, Council. Good luck with your project. Thank you. Finishing it.
It's close.
Or it's an old house, there'll be another project soon enough.
Yeah.
Never really done.
Next application is 519 Franklin Street, Block 1076, lots 1.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. John Amenhauser, the DeWeese Law Firm, here this evening on behalf of the applicant, 519 Franklin Street LLC. The property is located at 519 Franklin Street, identified on the city's tax map as Block 1076, Lot 1. Like the last property, this is also located in the RS Residential Seasonal Zoning District. This is also a contributing property in the Historic District, and HPC approval, final approval, has been received already for this proposed development. The property presently exists as a 2-story, 3-unit multifamily dwelling. The intention of this application is to convert that use to a single-family dwelling, both of which are permitted uses, so we're attempting to go from one to another, albeit in reducing the intensity of use on the site. Here with me this evening, we have Mr. John Halbruner. John is the professional engineer. I know he was just here on the last application where you recognized him as such, so he'll be testifying again. Also have Mr. Daniel Effelman. He's a member of 519 Franklin Street LLC, one of the members who, if necessary, is here to provide testimony this evening. So with that, if we can turn it over to John.
I just want to disclose to the board, my firm in the past, I believe, has not me, I've never met Mr. Effelman, but my partner has done work for Mr. Effelman. I'm told that there's nothing happening right now, but I don't vote, so I don't get too concerned about it, but I do want to put that on the record. But I've never spoken to the gentleman, as far as I know, unless it was in
Just
in
here.
Cape May somewhere.
Just here.
In
Yeah,
a building somewhere, it would never work.
So, John, if you can just talk about existing conditions, what we're looking to do here on this site.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, the street address is 519 Franklin Street. We're uniquely on the corner of Franklin, Corgi, and actually Pearl Street. We're actually in front of 3 different streets.
Mr. Halbern, I know we just recognized you, but I just want to do it because it's a separate application. I'm going to swear you in. I'm also the chair. Will you recognize him as an
Yes.
expert engineer and architect? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay, as I mentioned, property address is 519 Franklin Street. That's on the northeast corner of Franklin and Corgi. We also have frontage on Pearl Street. We are in the RS Residential Seasonal District, much like the last application. We're on a property that's 55 feet wide by 80 feet deep, containing 4,299 square feet. It's presently developed, the 2.5-story dwelling, originally constructed circa 1865, about 20 years older than the last application, about 160 years. It originally, or it has most recently contained 3 separate living units. It's 27 feet tall, and is developed on the site is developed with the building itself. and stone, concrete, and unpaved parking areas. In terms of bulk conformity, there are a number of non-conforming bulk requirements of the present condition. The minimum lot area, which you may recall from last application, varies depending upon the use. And its present 3-unit use would require 12,500 square feet as minimum lot area. And remember, the existing is 4,299 square feet. The minimum building setback, where 20 feet would be required from both Franklin and Corgi, 1.56 feet from Franklin and 2.22 feet from Corgi Street. Where the minimum lot width and frontage for a multifamily home would be 100 feet, we have 55 feet. Where the minimum rear yard setback would be 5.9 feet, I'm sorry, would be 25 feet, the existing is 5.9 feet to the second floor deck. And number of parking spaces, I honestly don't know the number of bedrooms within each unit, but at minimum, there would be a minimum of 2 parking spaces required for each, for a total of 6 parking spaces required for the triplex unit. And we can fit comfortably 2. So we're certainly not conforming with regards to the minimum parking space requirements. Again, for context purposes, surrounding properties are also in the RS zone and developed with residential uses, except for across Corgi Street where we have the post office. The proposed development is very little happening on the outside, almost all of it's happening inside. Most significantly, we're taking 3 units, taking into a single-family house. We will be taking a second-floor deck instead of stairs, almost certainly introduced as part of a required means of egress for the 3rd unit, when it was a 3-unit apartment, and we are removing that. And in doing so, we're going to be increasing the setback on the non-conforming Pearl Avenue or rear yard setback side in doing so.
Mr. Alberto, I'm sorry, my
Yes.
notes, I'm just, an outside porch is becoming an interior stairway, is that a summary? Or can you just say?
There
it
is
again?
a-
I
there's
started to write it down, it didn't sound right, so I want to give it.
There's an open deck with stairs off the second floor rear of the building along the Pearl Street or Pearl Avenue frontage. That deck is being eliminated in its entirety.
And John, by doing that, you mentioned that'll actually improve the non-conforming rear yard setback.
Correct. We're going to increase the rear yard setback, not to a conforming degree, but more so than what it is today. I'll get to those specifics in a minute.
Sorry.
In terms of site improvements, we're going to take a combination of unpaved stone and concrete driveway parking areas. We're going to formalize that by introducing brick pavers, both in terms of parking area and drive strips, to formalize the parking and to create a more aesthetic and functional parking situation. We're going to be introducing a new 30-inch tall fence around the property, and other than that, the rest of the site will remain substantially unaltered. To accomplish this, let me just back up for a second. We are proposing no changes to the existing landscaping. It's well landscaped, and it's going to remain landscaped as it is. There are a number of variances that are necessary in order for us to accomplish this. First of all, to preserve the minimum lot area, the non-conforming building setbacks, the non-conforming rear yard setback, which, by the way, is being improved, and a lot coverage, which, again, is something that's also being improved. Most of these variances can be advanced under the C1, much like the last application, or the hardship variance. We have a minimum lot area where 6,250 square feet would be required for the single-family home. We have 4,299 square feet. Side asterisks to that conversation, remember, the minimum lot area for the current use is 12,500 for the triplex. So by converting the use from a triplex to a single, we're reducing the minimum required lot area. So we're making that condition, while it's non-conforming, more conforming than today's situation. We have the non-conforming building setbacks, which remain unchanged. 1.56 feet to the steps, 7.78 feet to the porch, 11.3 feet to the building, all from Franklin Avenue. Required would be 20 feet. Those are our existing conditions. They're unaltered by the application, and it would be an undue hardship upon the applicant to force compliance with those things. In a very similar vein, the setbacks from Corgi Street, where 20 feet is required, we have 2.22 feet to the porch and 8.87 feet to the building, Both those conditions, again, remain totally unchanged by this application. And lastly, we have the rear yard setback from Pearl Street, where 25 feet is required. We're proposing 7.97 feet to the building, which is an improvement over the 5.9 feet that exists to the second floor deck, which is being removed as part of this application. So we're taking that non-conforming condition, we're making it more conforming, albeit not fully compliant. So that's all could be advanced under the C1 criteria. There's simply existing conditions on a house that's 160 years old. We can't practically make them conforming. It'd be an undue hardship upon the applicant to force conformance with those things. There are also elements of the C2 criteria in play here. First of all, I'm going to return to the lot area. We are making the non-conforming lot area more conforming by the change in use. Again, the lot area hasn't changed, but the required lot area for a triplex use is significantly more than that of a single-family home, and by converting to a single, we are making this far more compliant. We are going to be improving lot coverage, where existing condition is 57%, and as multifamily, it would be allowed to be 70%, so in the present condition, it's conforming. When we switch that to a single-family home, the maximum lot coverage drops down to 45%, though. So as a single-family home, the maximum lot coverage is 45%. What exists is 57%, and we're reducing it down to 54%. So again, we're taking that and making it more compliant. So if you look at all the positive effects by this application, we're making the lot area more conforming. We're making actually the lot width and frontage more conforming for the same reason as the lot area. Sounds counterintuitive, I know, but the minimum lot width for a multifamily home is 100 feet. What's present today is only 55 feet, so it's a non-conforming condition. The minimum lot width and frontage for a single-family home is 50 feet, and we provide that at 55 feet. So we're taking a non-conforming condition by virtue of the existing use and making it conforming by virtue of the proposed single-family use. Lot coverage is being reduced from 57 to 54%, and parking is being made fully compliant. We have a total of 7 bedrooms, which requires 4 parking spaces, all of which are being provided on site now. So we're taking non-compliant parking, we're making it compliant. We're reducing density. We're taking 3 units, we're taking it down to 1. And we're restoring an historic building back to its original single-family purpose, and doing so, making it more harmonious with the neighborhood. Those are all very positive things that this development, if approved, will have on the neighborhood. There are multiple purposes of the municipal land use law that are being advanced. First, to promote the general welfare and morals, again, by the restoration of a historic home back to its original single-family use in a manner with less density is certainly promoting general welfare to the public. We're providing more adequate light, air, and open space by increasing the non-conforming rear yard setback, not conforming, but more conforming to what's there today. Again, the reduction in density certainly promotes the establishment of appropriate population densities, another purpose of the municipal land use law. We're providing conforming parking where none exists, which promotes a free flow of traffic, another purpose of the municipal land use law. By eliminating the rear step and landing, we're going to be, and doing the restoration of the building, we're going to be promoting a desirable visual environment, yet another purpose of the municipal land use law. And finally, we're going to be promoting the conservation of historic sites and districts by the restoration of this building. So there are clearly multiple purposes of the municipal land use law that are being advanced in addition to all the benefits I described. So that's all on the positive side of the scale. Let's talk briefly about what the negatives could be. Well, each of the non-conforming conditions that we're dealing with, we're either making more conforming or conforming. So truly, there is no negative effect by the granting of this relief. So the C1 criteria hardship is clear, the benefits are clear, there are no negative effects. So for all those reasons, I believe the variances can be granted by this board. I'll shut up now.
He makes our life pretty easy. Any questions, Mr. Halberner?
I have one small question. On AZ 101, the existing floor plan says the house is 24.9.5, and the proposed is 25 and 1 3/4. I'm assuming this is staying in the same footprint?
It is.
Exactly the same footprint. There is no change to the building footprint whatsoever, outside the elimination of the second floor deck.
How do we get bigger then?
I'm going to say it's a typographical error.
I would, and I would say the same
I'm
thing.
not trying to be picky, it just
No.
jumped out at me.
No, it would jump out, and that's fair question.
25,
Oh, okay.
it's small, but,
But given that, what we will do is, any architectural plans to be submitted as compliance plans will show that the footprint is not being altered in any way.
we changing siding?
No. We're going to keep existing.
I'm just trying to think of what would make it,
Yeah, the survey shows it as 25.5.
And I think that's probably the origin of the difference. We have the survey plans, we have the architectural plans, which my firm actually inherited from a predecessor architect, and I think that's where the basis of the discrepancy lies. But we will resolve that discrepancy, I promise you. The intent of this application is to keep this entirely within the existing footprint.
I have a question. It's more curiosity. It actually doesn't have anything to do with zoning, but the application says there's no need for mercantile license,
Well, if this were a single-family home, there would be no mercantile license required.
unless it's rented out for less than the season, I guess. But, I mean, right now, I thought that the application was talking about current and as well as future, but it's not important. That could be, obviously, you're going to follow what the
What we have to
law
do.
says. I was just curious as to what the intent might be with the building, so
It's going to be for the Uffelman's personal use.
there's the answer. Great.
hear your review?
Hey, excuse me one moment. Before you go on, the fire department did give me a report on the 24th of March, which was Monday. They recommended approval with no conditions, no comments.
What was the date?
I'll give it to you, and you can give
Just
it back.
Next Monday.
What was the date?
March 24th.
I'll read it in.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Drowning in paper sometimes.
Okay, I would like to summarize my January 27th, 2025 review memorandum for this application. This is for 519 Franklin Street LLC. It's in the RS Residential Seasonal District. You've heard testimony that they're converting the structure and use into a single-family residential dwelling where it was multifamily, 3 units. With regards to the completeness review, there were requests for waivers from items 4, 22, 23, 26, 27, 32, and 33. They indicated that there's no changes to the proposed landscaping plan during their testimony. Because of the nature of this application and the scope, I did support granting those waivers and deeming the application complete. Just before I go into the variance analysis, we've had a couple of these lately, but if you recall, I've advised the board that Cape May doesn't have one menu per zoning district for all the uses. We have separate zoning tables for each use within certain districts. The residential site improvement the residential, the RS district has approximately 4 different, essentially zoning tables. The biggest departure or change that happens between you go from one use to another in that zone, the lot sizes change and the lot coverage requirements change. Floor area ratio also changes, but they're not really proposing any change to that, and it does conform. So anyway, that being said, I'll roll into the analysis of the variances. So this is an existing undersized lot. Lot size requirement is 6,250 square feet for the proposed single-family use, where 4,299 square foot exists. Mr. Halbruner phrased it appropriately. Essentially, for 3 units, they were required a lot more. The lot size requirement, I don't remember it offhand, that's not in my report, but they're making that situation better. It's bringing it more in line to be conforming. With regards to the building setback lines on Franklin and Corgi Street, there are 2 existing nonconformities. They're not being exacerbated or made worse, but 20 foot is the requirement for each of those front yard setbacks. 1.56 is provided, existing and provided at Franklin Street. 2.22 feet is existing and proposed at Cordy Street. The rear yard setback is being bettered. 25 foot is the requirement. 5.86 feet exists to the second floor. It's a landing and steps.
It's a deck and steps.
Deck and steps, okay. And 7.97 feet is proposed after the removal of that. Finally, the lot coverage. So the lot coverage in this change of use drops from 70% permitted to 45% permitted. So existing right now, as it was covered at 57% would be conforming, but because we're changing the use, that requirement standard drops, and now they're reducing the overall coverage on the site, so they're making it better, but they're still not bringing it in line with what's required. So 54% is proposed, 45% is required. They're also proposing a stormwater system as part of these improvements, so that would mitigate any potential adverse impacts there. So that's a good thing. Floor area ratio, just a note, 0.65 is required, 0.637 is existing or proposed. So that is met, so they're not overdeveloping the lot with regards to the massing of the structure. And then finally, they had a non-compliant parking situation when there was 3 units. The residential site improvement standards requires for a 7-bedroom, single-family dwelling, 4 spaces. I estimated there was approximately 3 on site. Mr. Halbringer's testimony was that there was 2. Regardless, it was non-conforming. They're proposing 4 and meeting that standard, so that is met. So there are some positive aspects to this development and redevelopment of the site. I'm going to move on to my general review comments if there's no questions with the variances. Okay, these should be conditions of approval. It's compliance with Chapter 258, the Flood Damage Protection Code. Item 2, we've asked that they revise the zoning table to reflect the comments in the review memorandum. Items 3 and 4 are stormwater review, so this is not considered major development. We've asked for some additional grading and drainage information be provided on the plan so that we can comprehensively evaluate it. But conceptually, that drainage system will work on that site. We just want to see some additional information so that we can verify that positive discharge is being provided and the stormwater is getting to where it needs to get. 5, you've indicated that there's no changes to the landscaping, so we would just ask you to add a note to the plan to verify that. 6 is our standard condition that we evaluate the sidewalk after construction to make sure that there's no damaged sidewalk. And if there is any, you have to replace that to the satisfaction of the board engineer. Along the lines of that sidewalk, so you are proposing some sidewalk and driveway apron along Franklin Street. I'm concerned about the brick sidewalk and preservation of that. So we want to ensure that those construction details preserve to the greatest extent possible and protect the sidewalk that's there, as well as,
We'll be happy to add a note that there's not to
That's
be
all.
altered in any way.
It's, okay. Finally, item number 8, provide the required inspection escrow, and your CO is tied to acceptance of the improvements and a satisfactory inspection. Item number 9 is compliance with the Cape May Shade Tree Commission, the Fire Department, and the Public Works Department. We received Public Works Department recommendation of approval dated 3/12/25 with no comments. Shade Tree Commission recommended approval with no comments dated March 15th, 2025. And then finally, our board assistant provided us with the Fire Department review dated 3/24/25. They recommended approval with also no comments. Thanks. And finally, you did provide evidence of HPC approval dated 11/12/2024, and I believe that was part of your package. And then item number 12, you're required to comply with any and all applicable affordable housing requirements at the time of approval or issuance of COs. And then finally, item number 13, Should the board grant approval, you're required to revise the plans consistent with the conditions that the board sets and submit the requisite number of plans to the board engineer for review and approval.
All those are
Summary of my review, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Everybody good? We'll open this up to the general public. Anybody within 200 feet would like to comment? Come up to the microphone, please.
Good evening. My name is Jane Howard. My husband John and I own the property at 706 Forgy Street.
Okay. 7,
06 Forgy Street.
okay, I just have to swear you in, but I'm sure that was all true. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do,
Thank you. Gene Howard, go ahead.
yes. I have two questions. The first is regarding the fencing I heard you mention. Can you elaborate on that and where that is going to go on the property? If it's going to have gates?
The fence will be 30 inches tall. It can't be taller than that because of site triangle considerations. It will border the entire property except for where the vehicles will enter and exit the property.
And the driveway, is that going to go through from Franklin to Pearl Street?
Yes,
It is.
yes.
I have some concerns about that I'd like to present. Pearl Street is a one-way, 15-mile-an-hour, no parking street, ranging from 13.6 feet wide to 15 feet wide with no sidewalk. In essence, it's an alleyway. Forgy Street is also a one-way street that is 19.5 feet wide with parking on the right side, sidewalks on both sides, and a speed limit of 15 miles per hour. While we do not take issue with 519 Franklin being converted from a three-family dwelling, all of which was previously used year-round.
Excuse me, would you please turn on the mic? Is it on? Is it green?
It's red, Karen.
Okay, can you press the little button?
Okay,
It'll turn. Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Do you need me to start over, or did you hear? Okay. All right. You're welcome. So as I started stating, the home was previously used year-round by one family with 2 cars, and we don't know how many cars are intended to be for the new use. We do have considerable safety concerns if the driveway of 519 is intended to allow access from both Franklin and Pearl Streets. We have been in our home going on 7 years. In that time frame, we have watched on numerous occasions, and more so in the summer months, cars not abiding by the one-way and 15-mile speed limit on both Pearl and Corgi Streets. With the season in full swing, we have observed children from the surrounding rentals play ball and games and riding their bikes on Pearl Street. Pearl Street is also heavily used as a footpath, day and night, traveled by people walking to and from town and to and from the beach with all their belongings, pushing carts and baby strollers, which makes it difficult to quickly move out of the way of a speeding wrong-way driver. In addition, as Pearl Street is so narrow and has no sidewalks, people tend to walk in the middle of the street. Despite the numerous one-way, do not enter, and speed limit signs, on one occasion, I witnessed a bike rider be so startled by a car coming at them in the wrong direction that they fell off their bicycle onto the pavement. On another occasion, I was walking our dog and was intently watching what he was doing and looked up only to come face to hood with a car coming at me quickly in the wrong direction. I always tell people to look both ways before crossing Corgi and Pearl Streets, and they ask me why. They're one-way streets, and I tell them it's because people don't abide by the fact that they're one-way and speed right through. Others in our neighborhood have also witnessed cars speeding and going in the wrong direction down both Corgi and Pearl Streets. We're afraid it's only a matter of time before someone gets seriously injured or worse, killed by a wrong-way driver. Having 519's driveway accessible from both Franklin and Pearl Streets is only going to exacerbate an existing problem and possibly contribute to a serious injury or fatal accident. Therefore, we would like to ask that 519's driveway not be able to be entered or exited from Pearl Street, and a buffer of shrubbery or other comparable barrier, not a curb, which people may drive over, be placed at the Pearl Street side of the driveway to mitigate these considerable safety concerns. I do have pictures to provide further clarification as to the width of the streets, etc. I appreciate your time.
Don't go away from the podium, because my experience is that there's conversation to be had about how to mitigate that, or is there like a one-way, is going to be an exit only or something? Is there something we can talk about
John,
to try to make your...
Can you talk about parking conditions along that street, that thoroughfare?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Along Pearl?
Well, we're not proposing to park anything along Pearl Avenue, but there's an existing driveway apron that discharges onto Pearl Street today. We're not creating that new, we're simply continuing it. Now, in terms of traffic safety, first of all, we're reducing the number of cars that are expected to use this by reducing the number of units. Second of all, the alternative to pulling straight through onto Pearl Street means backing up onto Franklin Street. That creates a far more dangerous situation than somebody pulling forward onto Pearl Street. I can appreciate the concern for drivers driving the wrong way on Pearl Street, but nothing about us having a driveway is going to promote that or increase that possibility of doing so.
John,
So-
can you think of anything that can be done that would help mitigate some of her concerns? If there's some signage or, you know, I mean, it's an opportunity to try to improve the situation for her. If there's something we can think of that is fair, I mean, I'm putting asking the engineers to see if there's something that can be done to help us with some...
I do see that there is a sign or utility pole, I'm not sure which, based upon the survey, immediately adjacent to our driveway, on which we could mount an additional one-way traffic sign notifying anyone exiting our driveway of Cordier Street being one-way.
What's there now? Is there a drive-through driveway now? Are there curb cuts on both streets?
Yes. I'll refer you to the survey by Mr. McGonigal that was submitted as part of the application, who shows the unpaved driveway off of Pearl Street.
Ma'am, I'm not an engineer, okay, I'm an attorney and mostly a note taker, but I've been here for 10 years, and having cars avoid backing out onto streets like Franklin is kind of a big deal to the engineering people, so that's going to be a tough sell for you to get them to close one side and make people back out on the Franklin. But I'm trying to think of ways, and you live there, so maybe you can think of ways that help. It's an opportunity for you to work with your neighbors to try to make that situation better. So everyone's open to ideas to make that better, because they probably have people that are going to be in danger as well on the street. So
Okay.
what can we do?
Well, first, may I say that we have been in that home going on 7 years now. The number of contractors, and I have to say, including the contractors, honestly, now, who are working on 519, go down the street the wrong way. I have pictures. There was a car parked, a van parked yesterday, went down Pearl Street the wrong way, parked on a no parking street. We couldn't even get out of our driveway. I had to ask them to please move so my husband could get to an appointment. And I was told, I'll move. And I said, do you realize this is a one-way street? You're going the wrong way on a one-way street, and you're also parked on a no parking street. For 7 years, I have fought this battle, and it never ends. It's sad. People go the wrong way. I cannot tell you how many people go the wrong way. If visitors, whoever, are going to come to that home, they're going to take that shortcut, they're going to go down Corgi, turn right on Pearl the wrong way, and go into that driveway the wrong way. And I don't want to be the recipient, again, of someone coming head-to-head with me in a car. It's an alleyway. It seems in the past 7 years, I've been fighting this battle, and no one can do anything about it. Everyone goes the wrong way. And then, even if they then turn around and go out Pearl the right way, then they make a left and go down Corgi the wrong way.
If the driveway was made, this sounds crazy, I know you can't enforce it, but if the driveway was made one way, and you only entered and you only exited onto Corgi, would that make that problem any better, worse? I don't know.
If, if people were to abide by that. But the problem is, no one wants to abide by it.
Pearl, I'm sorry, Pearl. If you just exited onto Pearl, you couldn't go down, you couldn't get into that driveway from Pearl.
If they abide by it, but
They abide by it.
no offense, I've had the chief of police out there. What do you do, other than having someone stand there and say, here you go, here's your ticket, here's your ticket, here's your ticket? I mean, someone's going to get hurt there.
I mean, I can respond that the only thing I think we can do, right, is to advise any contractors on site sternly not to do those things that are being complained about. But short of that, to your point, it's a traffic enforcement issue is what it sounds like more than anything. I'm not sure how we can alleviate it or this development otherwise exacerbates it.
It's a public road that,
The board's heard your concerns, they'll put it in their deliberations.
Could the driveway,
Can you show that to council?
you want to show them to the
No, give them to me. Thank you. You have to show them to the other side first, and then that's what she wants to give to the board.
Oh, when it comes out?
Is it multiple copies or multiple pictures?
It's multiple pictures.
All right, let me just,
It should say
I just want to know if you have any objection to them, that's all, then I want them. Okay,
7 photographs.
okay, I'll mark the 7 photographs as 01 through 07, and then I'll pass them down so everyone sees them, okay? Do you want to say anything about they have things said on them, okay?
They do.
John, I think that we could work out, at least, I think your one-way sign is a good start. I think we could configure the driveway so it promotes the turn in the proper direction.
well, I had the same thought, but what would promote the one-way out would also promote the one-way in the wrong way. Frankly, I think signage is the best we're going to be able to do on our property, and perhaps there's additional signage that the city can undertake at the intersection of Gorgeous Street and Pearl Street. That's a condition we're not creating or exasperating.
Yeah, I mean, the complaint is valid. It's, we can only control what you're doing on your site, and ensure that you're complying. Obviously, it's a compliance issue with what is described into the record. But I was just brainstorming to try and figure out a solution.
Well, clearly, any of our driveway users are going to be hit in the face with a one-way sign as they're actually in the driveway.
Right.
I mean, it's hard to think of anything more impactful than that.
Right, it's a reminder, it's a daily reminder when you exit your driveway.
And again, just remember that we're reducing the volume of vehicles that are going to be using that by
Right.
3 units down to 1 unit. So we are doing a lot to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just stacking cars along the house to back out on Franklin is not a,
Have you
If
talked to the city manager?
If I may, Justin Riggins came out a week ago Tuesday.
Okay.
With Chief Deacon Fishaw. They added additional one-way signs, and unfortunately, I was told people are likely, they put an additional one-way sign on the top of the street sign for Corgi and Pearl, and we have one directly across at the end of Pearl. They put another one on Corgi, and I was told, this is what we're doing, but, people just don't abide by them.
if there's any consolation, I live on Windsor and every 10th car is going the wrong way. It's,
Yeah,
dangerous.
I was the liaison to the Bike and Pedestrian Safety Committee in this city, and I can tell you, we probably have 100 residents with the exact same similar stories, and I have them too. And the only thing you really can do is, give our city managers the best shot at it and get the police involved in it, and
If I have.
it doesn't always
I understand.
solve the problem.
So
Because
maybe-
people just do what they want to do.
Then maybe what I'll do, honestly, for every one wrong-way car I see, I will take license plates and call the police department.
Right? And why not? Why not?
thank you. right, sir, do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please state your name, spell.
My name is Ken Holland, live at 710 Cordier Street.
Sir, please state your name and spell it,
I
and then give
will.
your address. Go
It's
ahead.
Holland, like the country, Holland.
Which first?
I live at 710 Cordier Street.
I'm going to make you famous and put your name in the resolution. I want to make sure I do it right, okay? So
Do it.
Your first name is Kevin or Ken?
Ken, K-E-N. Oh, you want me to spell my first name? Okay.
No, that one's easy. I just didn't hear it because you talked while I was talking.
Thank you.
All right, so it's Ken Holland, 710 Corgi Street. Got it, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I've been living at this home, 710 Cordier Street, with my wife, Janet Holland, for 3 years plus, and we are full-time residents. First of all, I applaud the party for the improvements on the property. It's great. It's been an eyesore for years. All good stuff, and I appreciate the zoning board's variances and looking at different options. The question I have is, why at this point do a pull-through driveway? What's the purpose of a pull-through driveway when you already have adequate parking for 4, 6, up to 8 cars, from what I've seen, pull in that lot? Because it's a very congested area, as Ms. Howard just stated. Not only do you have no sidewalks on Pearl Street, it's an alleyway. It's even smaller than Page Street, and they're all feeder roads. In addition, Pearl Street is a road from Columbia, Jefferson, and all the streets beyond coming into town. So everyone comes through there, it's a pass-through. And on top of that, Ms. Howard didn't mention, there's horses and buggies on that street almost every night, multiple times during the summer. When I come in off of Franklin to go to my own property, I have to come down Franklin. Even though I live on, I have to come down Franklin, make a left on an alleyway called Page Street, which hasn't been in the news tonight at all, make another left on Pearl Street, and then make a sharp right into my driveway on Pearl Street. The point of the matter is, it's a very congested area. So again, property improvements, great. Adding a pull-through lane creates basically another alleyway. And we know how it is with construction workers. We know how it is with residents in the area. Can you imagine with tenants? I believe the house will be used for rental purposes. I'm not sure. I'll leave that to the party. But could you imagine with the tenants that we currently see making a loop around that area? And the loop means they're coming down Pearl Street, making a left, an illegal left turn onto Cordier Street, right in front of the post office, and going up to Franklin. I don't have pictures, but I see it every day. And I will tell you, my final part, on the way over here tonight, I don't know who owns it, I don't know if it was a construction worker, a black Jeep pulled out frontwards onto Pearl Street, went up to Corgi, and made a left down the one-way street going to Franklin, which it goes the opposite direction. Just on the way over here, a black Jeep made a left and another left, and I believe Jane's pictures will show that. And I would like to enter into the evidence another picture to show some of this. This will be, I guess, 02 or 08?
Well, I'm going to call this H1 because they're different.
And that's a picture of the Jeep, but more importantly, it shows the congestion just today in that area. So I just wanted the group to know that there's a little bit more, and I don't know why additional, a pass-through lane needs to be added to pick up additional parking spots. The comment was made by the board, I believe someone said, well, you can't back up on the Franklin. There are dozens of driveways on Franklin. The whole street. It's a lot safer to back up onto a street when you're driving slow a few miles an hour than when you're going forward, like a little bit of a racetrack going 10 miles an hour. Just a humble opinion of a non-zoning board member. Happen to be a member of the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, and this is a concern that was stated earlier. Thank you.
I wanted to just say something as the board engineer. So while it's great to know what are the existing traffic situations and sort of things that are occurring over in that neighborhood, we can't hold this applicant responsible for those violations, they're traffic violations. What we can do, what the board can do, is only require them to provide the safest design that we can make them do. In this case, as the engineer, we always want to promote pull-out parking instead of backing up parking. It is always safer. It is not conflicting with traffic. It is always a more difficult maneuver to back out and avoid traffic as opposed to pulling out straightforward. So I think this is a safer design than if we were to block it off on Pearl Street.
I concur.
Is there anybody else from the public within 200 feet? Anybody beyond 200 feet that'd like to speak? We'll close it to the public then.
Is there any discussion by the board?
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay, the motion I'd recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you. Oh, wait, are we including any additional conditions related to the parking?
Yes, the one-way sign is going to be installed at the driveway exit onto Pearl Street.
Okay, so I'm going to add to the engineer's conditions, condition 14, a one-way sign will be installed. Where is it being installed? On the property or on the?
It's for the driveway exit onto Pearl Street.
It'll actually be within the Pearl Street right-of-way, but right next to our driveway. It'll be most effective there than
Right.
on our property.
Be facing in towards their driveway.
That way when you're exiting, you make
Exactly.
sure you go the right way.
Yeah.
Will everyone know what this means if I write, a one-way sign will be installed for the driveway exit on the right-of-way facing the property? Right? Okay. Okay, so the motion I'd recommend be made, but how you vote is up to you, but we always put it in the positive, so that yes is affirmance, no is rejection. Is a motion to grant variances 1 through 4 on page 3 of the engineer's report with waivers 4 with waivers 4, 22, 23, 26, 27, 32, and 33. And conditions 1 through 13 on pages 5 and 6 of the engineer's report, adding number 14, which is the one-way sign will be installed for the driveway exit in the right-of-way facing the property. That's the motion I recommend being made. How you vote is up to you. Go ahead. And again, remember, you require 3 yeses for the project to be approved, because 2 to 2 is a no.
Someone like to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
Second?
Mr. Yeager motions, Mr. Zexer seconds. Mr. Lewin.
Yes.
Mr. Zexer.
Yes.
Mr. Yeager.
Yes.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have to pay some bills. Someone like to make a motion to pay Hurlis Planning and Engineering?
So moved.
I'll second.
Is that Mr. Yeager?
That was.
Yes, thank you. So motion by Mr. Lewin, seconded by Mr. Yeager. Mr. Lewin?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Thank you.
And to pay King Barnes LLC?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second that.
Mr. Zexer motions, Mr. Yeager seconds. Mr. Lewin?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think that's it.
That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
On his chair, right?
Thank you.
You did it good, you did good.